What up, the Verbal Technician here, Monarch of Monterey Bay. Now, see, I always make that opening statement no matter what. And I think that whenever I see the red light in the camera, it always makes me want to say that. But anyway, my name is the Verbal Tek. They call me the Verbal Tek. And my name's Muhammad. I came from New York City back in 1989. No, 1990. 1990, because my son Muhammad was in the back seat in a nice safety child seat. Came out here. I said, I'm going to come out here and produce East Coast records in the West Coast and make a fortune, and everything was going to be all right. It didn't pan out, but the part about me coming to the West did. Now, my earliest memory of hip-hop is probably in a couple of stages, but there was one significant incident, and I'll save that for last. Because I was DJing as hip-hop evolved. See, a lot of people don't understand that when Kool Herc and the people in the Bronx became famous for hip-hop, hip-hop had been developing for a number of years before that. So it wasn't like a big bang. You know, Kool Herc, now get my Hercs together. Kool Herc, when he came out, he didn't just come out one day and say, oh, I'm playing hip-hop. It evolved, and it evolved out of disco. Now, my group was stationed in Brooklyn. We were coming out of Brooklyn. We were called the Quadra Brothers. Now, the thing with the Quadra Brothers were, we were bummy. You know what I mean? We used to wear T-shirts. All our fans were bummy. We used to overload clubs with equipment, put too many speakers in a little club. Club be big as the hotel room. We had wall-to-wall speakers. It became a phenomenon. So, wherever we went, a lot of thugs, a lot of street people would come. So we were one of the first groups that would, you know, just play the same record half the night, and then we put had plugged the bass player into the mixing board so we would keep the beats going longer and all kind of nonsense. So that developed from there. Now this is the end of the disco era now, but this is when the b-boys started coming, because we had break dancers and everything. But the quintessential moment when it came together with me is Ecstasy from Houdini. He used to live in the projects next to me. I lived in Wyckoff houses, and he lived in Gowanus. Now, Gowanus was only a block away from Wyckoff. Wyckoff was a better looking project, too. Don't misunderstand me, because ours was a new one. We had hedges and everything. But I digress. Anyway, he was in Houdini. So he was at my house. We used to all chill together. He was in my house one time, and him and Mark Mills, I'll never forget it, were writing some rhymes on it. Now, there used to be people out there used to rhyme Casey, the Prince of Soul, myself, you know, yes, y'all, to the beat, y'all, couldn't stop, y'all. We used to do that. And Casey was very good at it. He was very clever at it. He was probably the best of his era. And then Mr. Magic also, you know. But this particular time, Ecstasy was sitting in my house writing. At the time, we didn't call him Ecstasy. I still can't bring myself to call him that. His twin, we used to call him twin, because he had a twin brother. Well, twin, he's sitting there writing rhymes, and him and Mark is writing them all down a long page. And I said, well, what? Nobody's gonna let you say that much stuff on the mic, man. You can't, you know, you got to be careful with all that. And sure enough, he turned around to me and says, man, you don't understand. People are doing this in the Bronx. They go in whole verses and whole songs like this. And that's my first official introduction to hip hop. That's from then on. Whenever we did a party, I would jot down little verses. My man would jot down little verses, and it became a big deal after that. You know, there's a flyer around. I hope that I'll be able to give it to you for this tape. There's a flyer around. There's one of my, out of all the gigs I ever did, they put my name on this big giant list of DJs and hip-hop artists that came out, and you'll see Flowers and Plummer and Grandmaster Flash, and then right down the bottom you see the sounds of the almighty Quadra Brothers. We were presumptuous, I guess, because we used to say we had 3,000 watts of power, and we really did, but what the hell does that mean anyway? Yeah, so that was my first introduction to hip-hop. Pure hip-hop. I came to California, settled in Monterey, didn't know shit from Shinola about California, but it was nice, it was warm, and I could work with that. So I set up a little studio in the bedroom, and I found out about this little opening they had at Kazzeo in Pacific Grove. Now, if the Antique Roadshow had a radio station, that's what it would look like. It would look like Kazzeo. So I went to Kazzeo, Now, in those days, only big stations had instant digital machines and everything. It was a little small station, and they played no other hip-hop except what I played from 1 a.m. in the morning until 5 a.m. And you know, it's funny because I had just met Cut Master Kurt. I used to always say Kirk, but anyway. Cut Master Kurt. And he told me, he said, I don't know if I could be that dedicated, you know. But I was, man. You know, because to me, being from New York, the radio was like precious, you know. You could be, if you could be on the radio, I mean, you've done something. So I stayed there for a good while, and then somehow I got this chance to go to this TV station. And went to the TV station, and we had a video channel. Now the video channel was kind of fly because it wasn't on cable, which was really that was bad for California. But back east, if you said the station was broadcast, it used to sound like, well, it's much bigger show because you can get it over free TV. So from that, I got a lot of videos, and I was able to play that stuff, the videos back when people would only get a chance to see videos with I guess Ed Love and Dr. Dre on Saturday morning. So from there, I went ahead and I got an opportunity at KHDC. Now KHDC was really something because I didn't know it when I got there, but Bubba G. Scotch, he'd had a hip-hop show there before. So it was paid down for me, you know, it was a little ways, but again, it was 1 a.m. in the morning, so I stayed there. So I'm working there and fixing stuff up and doing all kinds of stuff. So when I get there, when I'm there for, after I'm there for a while, I was there for a while, a few months, and the station manager went on vacation and put me in charge of the station. So when she called me, she said, I want you to take care of the English programming. So I'm doing English programming and everything, you know, putting people in different spots, and I'm pissing people off, and they lost their shows and everything. My brother said, well, what are you going to do for your show? I said, well, I'll give myself a good spot maybe on Friday and Saturday. He said, well, why are you going to do that? You're going to be here every day. Just give yourself Monday through Friday. So I said, you know, nobody's going to stand for that. He said, well, if they don't, then they don't. If they do, they do. So I penciled myself into the new schedule every day from 4 to 7. Now, this is beautiful now, right? So I got a little squawk. When the station manager came back, she said, well, how are you going to do this? Because the people were really calling and telling me, how could he do this? How could he do this? But I made the strategic move of putting the most influential people in their own good spots. Now, everybody knows if you take care of the quarterback, then you're all right. And that's what I did. I took care of all the quarterbacks, all the skill position people. The linemen complained, but hey, you know, that's what they had to do. So we went from there. I got 5 days a week, and that was it. I mean, people just listen to the show. Well, Cutmaster Kurt, I met him through Jason D. And the way I met him is he told me about him at his show, and then I had to go do a show, do a shoot with Search, with MC Shirts, and right after they broke up Third Base. And they sure did. So I called Jason and asked him did he want to go, and told him to ask Kurt to go, because I knew Kurt was, you know, he really knew a lot about hip hop and everything, and to come with us. And that's how we went up there. And they, yeah, that's it. And that's how I knew Kurt from that. From that way, we started Fat Fridays. Now, Fat Fridays came to me because I said, oh, man, let me start theming the show. Because now I got these 5 days, and I didn't like it to be 5 boring days. And I remember, me being from New York, there was always the host, you know, there was always Marley Marl, and, you know, so-and-so, Red Alert, and so-and-so. So I wanted, you know, I wanted to set up like that. So it was a Verbal Tek and Cut Master Kurt. Now, this is the official I don't want to start. This is according to Tech, how Wednesday Rec started. Now remember I told you, I don't know what this would be in the tape, but I at one time was able to do the schedule at KHDC, right? And I gave myself 5 days a week, So when it got a little sticky after a couple months, you know, people wanted their spots to change and everything else. So the station manager decided to eliminate the show that Kazzeo was on. And so when Kazzeo's show was eliminated, I said, don't worry about it. You can come in and be the DJ for me on Wednesday Rec. Now, I won't say the name. I don't know what the name was. I'll take that back. That I'm not sure about. But I know that it was Wednesday he was supposed to come in. Now one day we was working and everything, we had an argument about something. I forget what it was, but it was obviously trivial because I don't know what the hell. Maybe it was some musical argument or some dumb crap like that. And from that, I said, well, you can just do the show by yourself. And then that's how he did on Wednesday Rec by himself. Now, it's there. This is the Verbal Tek version of it. That was the birth of Wednesday Rec. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about is Bomb Tuesdays. Now, Bomb Tuesdays, it was a strange evolution. What it's called is muscle, gangster muscle. That's all I can say. They came. King was badgering me every freaking day. He would call in, or he would come by the station and say, when you gonna put us on? When you gonna put us on? When you gonna put us on? And I heard them play. I heard Bomb Productions play, so I really was a big fan of them, but they weren't on the show. So I said, well, you know, what you do is you can come by on Tuesday, and I'll let you play. They came by on Tuesday. I had such a good time. I said, well, come back next Tuesday. Next thing I know, they were there. It was like no formal introduction. It was just Kane's persistence about coming. Now, remember, they had a lot of good records too. They had a lot of good records, and Dren could really cut. I mean, he was in the upper tier of cutting at the time. So, you know, Tom, bless you, I love you like a brother, but you never could touch Dre. You never could touch Dre on the 1 and 2s, you know. And yes, I know you're saying right now that how bad I am. But that's beside the point. That's beside the point. Because you always want to point out the fact that I can't cut. Well, okay, you're right. You're right. But I told you, my hero was Eric B. And see, that's all Eric B ever did. And I can do my Eric B impressions, you know. So I always told people that. I want to be like Eric B. So I'm like Eric B. But yeah, that's how Bomb Tuesdays came about. And then, you know, whenever they would come, whenever Bomb Tuesday comes around, you know, women come with them, you know, so that used to be nice. They would bring the chicas, and boy, I would have such a good time in that studio. Oh, that's right, this is on tape. Now, one of the success stories that I feel, and I say this now only in hindsight, because for years I would never even mention that I did the X-rated record. You know, I would only, if people brought it up, I just dismissed it and everything else. But now I'm really proud of it. Sometimes at nighttime I go on, I listen to the blogs, and I hear people who say they know me and and I'm like, dude, you don't know me. You don't know nothing about how this record was made. So right now I'm going to give you an exclusive. I've never even spoke about this in public. The record was actually recorded. I guess it's been 7 years, yeah. The record was actually recorded with a Sony mini disc. So all the people that say, well, it was distant over the phone, it wasn't over the phone. It was done inside his cell with a Sony mini disc and a Sony condenser microphone. Now the object behind that was that we'd go straight to digital, and we could use the mini disc to go right to the tracks digitally. The condenser microphone was small for prison, and it would give you a good line level output, so that we could go right into the auxiliary in, as if it was a mixer. And that's why the vocals had that sound quality. Now, I don't know if I should say the rest of it, but the rest of it is somehow he was able to get that machine in and get it out and send it out. Now, I got in a lot of trouble. They took $135,000 from me, which is the worst. I don't think 2 weeks go by. I forget about it now, but every time I get broke, I think about that $135. You know, they seized $135,000 from me. I think they seized about $210 or $220 from Cedric. Cedric was the owner of the record company. Now, how did they seize it? Well, there's a law that says that a convict cannot make money off his crime. It's called the Son of Sam law. Now, me and my infinite wisdom, when I signed on to do the record, I signed with X-rated, Honore Brown, which was the proper thing to do. We were shopping the records, so in case if I had signed with Cedric, then and Cedric doesn't pick the record up, X-rated could take the records to somebody else, and I wouldn't be able to get a dime. So my thing was with him, figuring that was the safe way to go. The downside was he was a convict. He was a convict. So I would have been better off being signed to Cedric. That's how Cedric was able to get his money. Because he said, listen, I don't know anything about nothing. I got paid for a record, and I received the record, and that's it. And that's how he was able to do it. Me, on the other hand, they said, no, 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 no. You were paid $10,000 to do the record, and that's it, Charlie. That's all you could do. So the money that I got in per diem, I got a little bit more than that. I got, all told, I made about $22,000, $25,000. But all of it was per diem, expenses and stuff like that. That's all I got. 90 cents a record. When I stopped counting, my lawyer told me, he said, listen, I'll be honest with you, it's not enough money for me to pursue it, because it's going to take so much trouble, so much problems, that I can't, you know, I won't be able to make any money. So at 90 cents a record I was supposed to get, it was I would say 135,000 because it sounds a little bit better. But at 90 cents a record, it's 135,000 units, so it's probably like 120,000, whatever. But that's what happened to it. So I'm glad Gray Davis lost the re-election. Gray Davis, you know, and your son of Sam, because I didn't do nothing. I didn't do nothing wrong. All I did was make a record, you know, but I didn't have the money to fight it, and so that's that. Now, you go online, they're still selling the records. I don't know who's getting that money. I don't know why I can't get none of that. I don't know who. You go on Amazon right now and buy the entire collection, and you hear people that are talk and say, well, they like Macaframa and they like Mortal Kombat. Let me explain something to you. All the major work that was done in that record, I did. I had some co-producers. I had a couple of co-producers, but they will tell you where they get the sounds for their production. I programmed. Who recorded it? I recorded. Who sequenced it? I sequenced it. So they did do a few licks on a couple of the minor songs, but the bulk of the production was Verbal Tek. Look for the liner notes. If you can get an original one, you'll see Verbal Tek, Verbal Tek, Verbal Tek, Verbal Tek, because I did the record, man. And I didn't want to take the responsibility for it, so I never spoke up until now. So the FBI came to see me. I guess they'll be here. They're coming back. So as soon as it's released, I want you to know, I need cheese. I need, that's something. Now, you know, so far we talked about different things that happened in the Verbal Technician show that were all positive. Some, unfortunately, did not work out. Okay? And matter of fact, another one just jumped in my head. One was DJ Shawreal. Now, me and DJ Shawreal went on to have some partnerships and stuff later on. We did well producing together and everything else. But he was young, was a high school student. He, just like Kane, called all the time, send letters, come by, I want to be on the show, I want to be on the show, I want to be on the show. So finally I let him go on the show. Now, one of the rules of the Verbal Technician show is that we only play hip-hop. No singing, no, it could be any kind of hip-hop, but it could not be R&B tinged or nothing like that. It always had to be real hip-hop records. East Coast, West Coast, down south, I didn't care. But they had to be real hip-hop records. So he comes and he starts playing. Finally I said, what the hell? I'll give you an hour, half hour, 45 minutes. You can be on the show. So he brings his turntables and everything in. And he starts playing like these breaks from Luther Vandross and stuff like that. So the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, all right, you know, let me see where he's going here. So then I tell him on the commercial break, you know, go to sponsor. I said, man, listen, you know, people are going to get mad, you know. Now, right now, the yellow bulb is going pop, pop, pop. I don't even want to answer because I know what's going on. So I said, yo, man, just play some hip-hop records. So he's, you know, acting all smug about it. I said, okay. Next door, we put him back on another 3 or 4 minutes. He's just doing the same thing. He was playing snippets of hip-hop records, and like he was like, you know, this, you know, he was like he was at a Ibiza or something, you know. And I'm like, dude, I mean, you can't do this, man. You can't do this hip-hop record. So the 3rd time when he did, he said, this is my set, though. I'm playing my set. I'm like, dude, I'm going to tell you what you do with you and your set. And I just popped him off, and he never played again. He was supposed to be 45 minutes. I think he did about 10 minutes. I couldn't take it, man, because I know my audience. No matter what, they would get mad at me for playing different kinds of hip-hop. Don't misunderstand me. Some dudes would call in. I even got death threats, so, you know, which was ridiculous that they could get so serious about the music. But the thing with the mixing all the slow jams and everything else, that was the wrong program. We just didn't do that. No. Well, you know, I hate to use the demise, ending, fall, I guess, of the Verbal Technician show, KSDC. It really was because the uniqueness of it after 8 years was lost. You could, when I first went to KSDC, hip hop was a rare commodity to hear. You know, remember I said I met Jason first listening to his show. I listened to Jason's show first, and I used to make sure on Saturdays I'd be up to ready get the show, you know, because you couldn't hear hip hop on the radio all the time. But by the time you know, it was 2000. By the time 2000 rolled around, hip hop was everywhere. You know, it wasn't scarce. You didn't have to listen to a big fat loudmouth dude from Brooklyn in between songs. You could just download them on your iPod or whatever devices people were using then. Plenty of CDs around, lots and lots of video shows were around. So I think that was it. You know, it just outlived its era. And it's a funny thing is that when I wanted to end it, I didn't want to end it, but I was forced to end it, and it was the right time. KHDC, you know, my favorite memory, I would have to say KHDC. They're memories, but there's probably one that I have to say is my favorite. Now, let me draw this picture for you. One time I put on the Sugar Hill Gang, the original version of so, you know, the original version of Rapper's Delight. And I figured, well, it's what, 11 minutes and some change or something like that. I forget what but it's really long. Almost, I think it's like 15, 16 minutes. Anyway, I put it on. I said, this is enough time for me to go to the bathroom, you know, doo-doo, go outside, hit the blunt, and come back in. Now, this is where I made my mistake at. I should have hit the blunt at, well, actually, what was it? I figured it. I've given deep thought to this over the years. Oh, if I had went to the bathroom first, I would have been okay. But not to anybody that's ever smoked weed. I don't smoke weed anymore. But this is 20 years ago, so you know. If I said to myself, if I had went to the bathroom first, I would have been able to catch this problem. But I go out, I go smoke the blunt, I come in, I get my paper, I get on the toilet. Now, mind you, I got my watch here, I'm saying I got 16 minutes, no problem, right? So as soon as I finish making doodle, I come out the door, and another DJ is running upstairs panically, and all I hear is the first, yes, the first 3 or 4 words of Rapper's Delight. So for 16 minutes, the record had been skipping. It was skipping so bad. It was skipping so bad that I forget this guy's name too. He's a DJ in Cincinnati now. He came upstairs and he was all panicky because he figured I must have had a heart attack or something. Because the record was still playing. And I used to remember the first, I feel bad, I don't remember the first lines, because I used to remember what the first lines were, because it was indented in my brain. I could not believe it, because when I come out the bathroom now, I know that I'm in trouble because it's the first couple lines, and then it hits me. It's been 16 minutes or 14 minutes, whatever it was, and then it come back down. Oh man, I didn't get in trouble for that. I guess nobody really paid attention to it, but what's this guy's name? He used to drive a Volvo, not a Volvo, a Volkswagen. He went on later to work at the big station, the big commercial station in the area. But that was my most memorable moment. That I can never forget. So those DJs out there that's using vinyl, go make do first. Hit the blunt afterwards, because see, the bathroom is right there, and I would have been able to hear it. But when I did the blunt, I was outside, and so being outside, but no, or take a, or you know what, you're not doing the best advice. I said take a portable radio with you. That's good advice. The best advice is don't smoke weed in the people's station. That's your best bet. I think that's what it comes down to. All the years of deliberation, do not smoke weed at the radio station. It just don't pan out, man. Now Delia's gonna hate me. And I think the legacy of the Verbal Technician show was and it's kind of hard to talk about yourself in it, but one of the things that I'm most proud of is that I brought hip-hop to people's everyday lives. You know, I did my little job. It was almost like a, you know, I wasn't the governor, I wasn't the president, I was just a little congressman, but in my district, I was really able to change the attitudes of people towards hip-hop. As it progressed over 8 years, it became more and more common, more and more common. And another thing that I used to like to do is that I always believed in the common thread that was through all hip-hop. You know, when things would come from L.A., Chicano rap would come from LA, and dudes from New York and dudes from down south. I didn't care. I would play any of them, and so long as I liked the record. And it was one of my philosophies, and it still is that I judge music based on the song itself, not its legacy, not who made it. Because I tell you the truth, I have never really been a Snoop Dogg fan, but I love Gin and Juice. I just love that song. I'm not saying I love his body of work. I just like Gin and Juice. Now, Gin and Juice is just one of them songs. Same thing with California Love. People say, how do you play? I love this song. I love California Love, still to the day. But, that's the thing that I'm most proud of with the Verbal Technician show, is that we're able to bring hip-hop to people on a daily basis, and we were able to expose people to all different types of hip-hop long before you were able to do it. Because when I lived in New York, I never heard West Coast hip-hop. When people in the West Coast complain that they don't play it, they got a complaint, a legitimate complaint, because they don't. They play more East Coast hip-hop on the West than they ever played on the East Coast. But one thing about the Verbal Technician show is that you don't know what I was going to pull out that crate. When they would send me records, there would be stuff that I would stick, that I liked. I didn't care if it was selling. I didn't care nothing. If it was good music to me, then that was it. Now, and the thing is, I'm most proud of that. People would complain, but I didn't give a shit. I'll be honest with you. I just didn't care, Well, I guess people want to know what I've been doing. I just came home from prison. I was down like 17 years, and nah. Of course not. Tech too scared to go to prison. I testify against the guy that shot Lincoln if they ask me. No, seriously, I wanted to come home only because without the show and without the camaraderie and the friends that I had in Monterey, I just didn't like it anymore. Jason was gone. Kazzeo was still there. Room probably still looks the same way. I guess more records. but other than that, everybody left. Kirk left, and it became a whole different thing. That was my time was up. My kids talk about going back all the time, and my daughter, she went back. But I eventually want to go back to California, and especially to Monterey. But now I'm here. I mean, I'm close to Philadelphia. I'm further from New York, but I can get here when I want to get here. So, I'm doing more business, I guess, than music. My kids, though, however, they bringing up the legacy, They got stuff. I hope Kazzeo splice some of their stuff into this, and that you see them, they got a few songs that they're doing, they performing. So it went on. Me and Hanifa got back together, about 5 or 6 years ago. Matter of fact, longer than that. What is it, 2011 almost? Yeah, man, it's like 7, 8 years almost. So that worked out about pretty good, I say pretty good, emphasis on pretty good. But because, one of the things that I want to sit down and say, she had the opportunity to be a great artist, And one of the problems was me and herself. She never had the 100% drive that was necessary, and I didn't have the stamina to really push her into doing it. I should have brought in other producers. I should have did so many other things, but that's water under the bridge. Mad shout to Squint. He's another one. He stayed in California too. So it's just something that now I'm in another phase of my life. I'm really into business. I'm doing the loops and the samples. If you ever go to CantrexPlaza.com, and you can pick up some nice fat loops for you. I got a lot of samples in there. And what I do with my samples, I actually make loops. You get in the studio and you say, oh, that sounds nice. Well, that's the end of my record right there. I don't have to do nothing but, once the loop is looped and it feels real good, that's it. Also, too, I've been doing a lot of writing. I mean, I don't know how good it is, but I've been doing a lot of writing, and hopefully, I'll be able to put some pieces together. Mad shouts to my man, X-Rated, because I didn't get a chance to talk about the famous X-Rated record, I hear more about that than anything ever that I ever did. They always talk about the X-Rated records. So, other than that, you want to buy a verse? No.
The Verbal Tek, money. When I was in Brooklyn, like probably one of the most comfortable speakers on the radio to this day. I mean, the Verbal Tek can tell you a story, and there's no such thing as a short version. You know, he's the homie for real. If I had to think about 2 songs that like that guy played day and night, Ill and Out Scratch, Where My Homies, and Buddha and the Bandit, My Brain on Drugs. There's probably a few more, but you know, I did listen to your show, Money. You know, I know what you played. I met the Verbal Tek because he was doing a TV show, and he wanted to come up and film the Wise Up show. So he came up and did that. I mean, there's some allegations about me hitting on his wife or trying to meet his wife. I mean, Hanifa, what's up? You know, I always got love for you. We won't talk about it to him. You know, it's just it's a thing. But you know, coming to meet me in my 20s, you know, I'm 20s in college, and you know, it was pretty much the music, the women, and you know, the beer, and it was good to meet you. So long story short, we hit it off through that. We became really good friends, and again, the whole Central Coast hip hop thing was family. I mean, from Bomb Productions, I mean, they ran kind of Watsonville, you know, the crews in Salinas. Everybody showed love, and we spread love. Muhammad and his family would always come party with us in Santa Cruz. It was, you know, it was really all good. Kazzeo was the connection there as well. So anyway, the Verbal Tek and I, we just, you know, he showed a lot of respect. He promoted the shows. I promoted his show, and man, he really, I mean, this was a guy who was on Monday through Friday, a couple hours every day, playing underground hip hop. The commitment, you know, is amazing, you know, and I think a lot of people didn't appreciate it for what it was, but he definitely, you know, made his mark on the Central Coast, and his contribution to hip hop was huge. Much respect, man. He's a legend.
Okay, so the Verbal Tek. The Verbal Tek is someone who came a little bit after Bubba G. Scotch, but he had a really popular radio show. His show was on KHDC from 6 to 8 every day. That means we were listening to hip-hop, but a different type of hip-hop that they were playing on mainstream radio. The Verbal Tek is from Brooklyn, so playing a lot of East Coast hip-hop. Some of the stuff that I listen to now and artists that I'm into now, I heard for the very first time on the Verbal Tek show. And the Verbal Tek is the person that put us on the radio. He's the person that believed in us. He's the person behind the X-Rated Unforgiven album, and you know, we're also a part of that with him. The Verbal Tek, when I first met him, it was almost like meeting a celebrity. I think back now, you know, because he's a good friend of mine. I've known him for almost 20 years. But thinking back now, I was like really excited to meet this person because I listened to him for so long. And, you know, he has a distinct voice and a vast knowledge of hip-hop, and his storytelling is crazy. And then when I met him in real life, it was a big deal to me. It wasn't until a few years later that we actually connected and became friends and started working with him. But the Verbal Tek brought hip-hop 5 days a week to the Central Coast, and also brought up DJs like Kazzeo, Jason D, Cutmaster Kurt, myself, Bomb Productions, DJ Dren, and the whole Bomb Productions family. So on a different level and in a newer era, the Verbal Tek was similar to the way Bubba G. Scotch did it, but he did it in, you know, a few years later. So shout out to the Verbal Tek. Peace in a bag of chips was his famous line.
I'm a little fuzzy. I can't exactly remember how I met the Verbal Tek. You could probably ask him. He could probably give you a better story. But at some point in '92, I believe, I met the Verbal Technician, and I asked him, hey man, you got Monday through Friday on your show. Can I come guest DJ on Fridays? I would really love to get back on the radio in the Monterey Bay area, which is my home zone. And he said, yeah man, I'd love you to come down. And so we started Fat Fridays off. And it was a lot of fun working with Muhammad, the Verbal Tek. He's, you know, a very energetic, fun person to work with.
Muhammad Abdul Kareem, right? Muhammad Abdul Kareem, Verbal Tek. You know, I was in high school again. His show, you know, you guys' show was just, that was the only place you can get hip hop, undiluted, just straightforward, the type of stuff that I was starting to discover, you know, at that age. And the first time I met him was actually after I had graduated. I had been working at the Californian newspaper about a year or so, and they approached me about doing a feature on the local hip-hop scene. And at that time, it was about '94. I mean, there just wasn't a whole lot going on in Salinas with hip-hop, man. So I just went straight to him. You know, he was the first person I thought of. and he just told me about his experiences growing up on the East Coast. Invited me over to the studio, let me sit in and say some stuff on the radio, and just never just you meet, like, you know, he's an older guy, but just meet such a humble, you know, another humble, you know, dedicated cat who, you know, had a love for this music, and had a large background and was from the East Coast, man. You know, you couldn't deny his credibility with stuff. I think those were the best things that I took from my experiences with Muhammad. Working with him on that story, that it wound up being a front page story. You know, I just really came away with a real deep admiration for him, and I was really blown away because he was so accessible and letting me, you know, ask him questions. And I was 18 at the time. I was 18, 19. I looked like a kid. I was just fresh out of high school. But you know, he took me seriously, and he understood that I had a love for the music too, man. And I think with just, you know, his approval or whatever, his cosign, just, you know, gave me a real sense of like what I can do with my writing, you know, like in terms of like representing the local hip hop scene, or just writing about my passion and my love for the music, you know. And he enjoyed the article that I wrote about him. He liked all the other stuff I wrote about him. And you know, I just followed him over the years on his radio station. I think the one thing I really liked about him is he was kind of counter-programming to you, Kazzeo. You know, you were the hardcore hip hop, you know, purist, and he was the populist, man. You know, and you guys balanced each other out. I remember on his show, one day after California Love come out, Tupac, he just blasted that, like for the opening of his show for like 10 minutes straight, just gushing over how much he loved Dre's production, and I was at that time, I was kind of coming to that hip hop elitism, and to me it was like, that's just an old EP&D sample. I didn't really understand, you know, what the big hubbub was over California Love, but he was just going on and on about how this is Dre's best work and how Tupac was spitting and stuff. And I look back on that now, and how he could find the quality in a record, you know, something that what made it classic, you know. I think that was one of his really great gifts, was in introducing you know, why the mainstream stuff was important. You know, he really liked Dr. Dre, because I remember a few years later he was playing Keep Their Heads Ringing, and just talking about how much he loved Dre's lyrics on that, how much he loved the way Dre was spitting on that. And you know, at that time I was really, really intensely into like underground hip hop and getting to that whole backpacker mentality and stuff. And that really, feeling all the West Coast stuff as much as I was a few years later. But you know, he had an appreciation for the popular stuff that I think now that I'm older that I can find. And I think I'd probably be counter-programming to you, Kazzeo, because I'm in that you know, populist mode that Muhammad was in, you know. And now he was never apologetic about it, what he liked, you know. That was the other cool thing about him too. He can, but the thing that was great about him, he'd give you the reason why it was good. He'd give you specific reason on what the qualities were. He knew his music, man. And he's also, man, he's responsible for one of the West Coast underground gangster rap classic CDs, X-Rated's Unforgiven, man. You got to give him props for that, because the tracks that he produced with Sharil on that album, they were banging, man. I listen to X-Rated still. You know, I've been on this whole kind of rediscovering West Coast, you know, gangster rap, and just, you know, that's kind of important, man. That was kind of an important record, you know, in my opinion, in Northern California, and he was a part of that. So, you know, he has his place in the local history and the regional history too.
Oh boy, the Verbal Technician, man. You know, first off, I have to thank Verbal Tek. If it wasn't for him, I would have never got on the air here at KHTC, so thank you, Verbal Tek, for that. But beyond that, I have to say, Muhammad, you and I have had some of the best on-air debates about everything from the creation of G-Funk to DMX versus cannabis to 93 till infinity to who knows whatever else. You and me, man, we would have some of the best debates, arguments, if you will, on the air. And dude, I think we created some really great stuff on the air. So we did some classic things, man. We've partied in clubs, we've partied in concerts, we've torn down hotel rooms. You know what I'm talking about. Man, you know, from San Jose to Salinas to LA, you get into arguments with dudes on the bus. Man, we've done so much, man. So I thank you, man. You know, you're a brother to me in radio and in just, you know, in general, man. I got nothing but respect, nothing but love for you, and I hope you're doing well out there in Pennsylvania. Verbal Tek, man, what can I say, man? Oh, money! That one time back in Brooklyn. But it's all good, man. So, again, man, nothing but respect to you, and in your own words, man, peace and a bag of chips.
Muhammad, old friend, a good friend. First time I heard Muhammad, I was like, wow, this guy really is from the East Coast. He had that accent, man. He was my hero. So, Kazzeo told me to come on up one day, and I don't even know when, it was early 90s someday. But to meet the guy was another thing, man. He was laughs. And Muhammad was a really big inspiration for the East Coast hip-hop scene right here in the Central Coast. Well, the underground scene, anyway, West or East, you know, but he had that flavor of the gritty, grimy street style, you know, and that was another era of hip-hop that was inspirational. It's kind of gone now, but it's not lost. Everybody's bringing it back. It's never going to die. As long as we have like Kazzeo on here, 18 years strong. You know, that's the longest running hip hop show I've ever been heard of. Besides maybe WBLS or KDAY, even if they do hip hop down there anymore. But on the Central Coast, it's always been a rock for hip hop, and it's going to live on as long as Kazzeo's here representing.
Turn up the radio and you know, you turn up the radio and you start to laugh spontaneously, hilariously, and you just flat out crazy laughing. You know, there's somebody responsible for that, and Muhammad, the Verbal Tek, how he would get hip hop and make it like dope comedy jam or something in his own way, you know, and he'd have invited guest DJs and they'd spark up discussion, little subjects that would blow up, and they were just so hilarious, so funny. From having I think one issue that just I still remember is we're having no, I won't even get into it because it'd probably get too graphic, but just funny stuff, little subjects, and they blow them up to big subjects and just have you laughing, and always having something interesting to say about what the current MC was going through, what he could have gone through, what he should have done, and it was always interesting because these are live personalities letting you know something through what's in their souls. And those are the MCs that are out there making these records. And they always had something to say. Him and his guests always had something to say, but they always turned it around for the better. And from playing music to just having fun and just laughing. And we all need to laugh. We all need to laugh because it's real good medicine. You know, my dad, my father, his English was limited, but he would listen to Muhammad. He said, ¿por qué ya no sale? And then they say, no, ya no está aquí. He said, how come you don't come on? He goes, he's not here no more. Oh, yeah, I used to listen to him. He's chistoso, muy funny. And my dad would listen to Muhammad, the subjects, because they were basic and they were funny, but it was all intertwined with hip hop, with hip hop, and he always gave his mind on all different coast opinions and just broke it down to you know how he felt about it, and a lot of people grew up on him, you know. He was very essential in the area, very essential. So we miss Muhammad. And every single person that's on radio right now, you know, we all carry a certain stand in life. And it's very important to people that have grown in the area. So I'm thankful because I needed to laugh. I needed to laugh.